Wow, 3 whole videos in 3 days. I'm pretty sure that's a record for me. Hey, what's going on everybody? Justin here, and in this video I just want to share some of my favorite zoology or animal-based books that I've read in 2022 so far. I've done different series in the past where I kind of highlight my favorite books halfway through the year on different like history subtopics or nature topics, things like that. And usually, that's during the summertime, halfway through the year. And I didn't put out hardly any content this year, so I didn't get around to it. But they're usually really well received, and a lot of people I think like the recommendations and just different things on like kind of particular subject matter and whatnot. So we're gonna be doing it kind of towards the end of the year, but I'm trying to finish out the year with a bang, reading lots of really good books on a whole bunch of things, and some of them hopefully will overtake these ones. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started with, let's see, my five of my favorite animal-based books so far in 2022. Let's just go ahead and start with the two that I don't have. And first up is going to be Why Sharks Matter by David Schiffman, and his Twitter handle is Why Sharks Matter. That's actually where the title comes from, which I thought was interesting. And as you could probably guess, he's a marine biologist dealing mostly with sharks. And I've read, I think, 2 other books on sharks. One was Emperors of the Deep last year, which was really good. This one was also just a tremendous, just a perfect amount of like humor and wit thrown into kind of like all the science and kind of like natural history of sharks. You're definitely going to learn a lot. Like there's a lot of myth busting, like for example, the whole like idea, sharks, do sharks die if they stop swimming, they can't like actually go to sleep or whatever, things like that, kind of dealing with shark encounters and shark attacks and whatnot, kind of like really what's going on there, just kind of like just the hardcore facts and whatnot. But like I said, there is a lot of like wit and humor as well. He has his little rant against Discovery Channel Shark Week, which I thought was perfect. He kind of deals in just why it's pretty much trash, and I thought that was great. And let's see, like some of the other things that are dealt with pretty good was the whole all the controversy. Well, I guess it's not really controversy, but just the whole problem of shark finning and kind of the legal ins and outs and what actually counts as shark finning and this and that and everything. It is pretty like in-depth and crazy, and just kind of a good overview of like kind of the different powers that be that are kind of going on with the different fishery trades and everything. But like I said, a lot of the science and natural history of sharks is also thrown into that's what the book is about, right? Sharks. So like why they're important to different ecosystems and the environment, and kind of the global like marine system as a whole. If you're interested in sharks, definitely give that one a look. And one of the other ones that I don't have, I think I listened to this one on audiobook format, was Kraken by Wendy Williams. And I've read 2 of her other books, The Language of Butterflies and her book on horses. And I thought both of those were fantastic, which is why when I saw this one, I had to listen to it. I guess it's an older book that like just got like an audio release. It was kind of weird because I had never like seen it before, but it wasn't like a new release. But anyways, as you can probably guess from this title, it's all about kind of the cephalopods, squids, octopuses, oh yes, it's actually technically octopuses, and everyone's like, is it octopodes and this and that, it's not octopi. Anyways, I like this one a lot too because she does a lot of sort of in-person kind of going out on the missions with the different scientists, like on the boats and stuff, dealing with how they actually acquire some of the squids, like what they're doing with them, when they're dissecting them in the laboratory, what are they looking for, things like that, which I thought was really interesting. And also just like like learning about the colossal squid and the giant squid and things like that, and like kind of the myths behind where some of these sea stories are coming from, and which ones are kind of accurate, which ones probably have nothing to do with really much of anything. But definitely really interesting. There's actually quite a few books on squid. There's The Soul of the Octopus, there's The Rise of the Cephalopods. There's quite a few, but I think I've read like 3 or 4 now. I might have to do a video just on different books on like the cephalopods that I've read so far. But anyways, like I said, this one just thought was really engaging. Learned a lot about different like squids and things like that. So just a lot of fun. Definitely encourage you if you like octopuses or squids. Alright, now so for some of the ones that I have in person, we got Sue Hubbell's Waiting for Aphrodite, Journeys into the Time Before Bones. Either last year or the year before, I read her book, Broadsides from the Other Orders, which was all about kind of not necessarily rare insects, but insects that don't get a lot of coverage in other books and stuff. You know, bees and ants definitely get, like Hymenoptera definitely get like kind of a lot of coverage. A lot of beetles do sometimes, things like that. But you know, just some of them just don't. They're like, no one cares. Not no one cares about them, but you know, like water striders. I mean, how many people actually write on water striders, for example? So when I saw this one, I definitely picked it up, and it's all about sort of evolving over time. The different this book is obviously about kind of I shouldn't say obviously, it's about invertebrates, kind of dealing with Aphrodite, for example, which is actually a sea mouse, which is like this furry looking sea worm thing. Definitely go check it out if you're interested in stuff like that. But you know, dealing with different like mollusks, different other invertebrates, sea life, especially. But what I really enjoyed about this book is she kind of blends the sort of deep time natural history study with her own kind of course of her own life. I think growing up in Michigan, kind of like the almost lack of natural history in her childhood, and how she was able to find some, moving to the Ozarks, and then also in her later years moving to Maine by the seashore, or pretty close to the seashore, which was like a good touch since I live in Maine too. But I found the way she just kind of blended, like I said, her kind of like personal like kind of vignettes with different invertebrate histories, and just kind of like musings and stuff. Just really fascinating. I love that kind of blending of genres, especially dealing like kind of with the natural world. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check this one out for sure. And if you made it this far into the video, I would encourage you, if you're enjoying the content or you've enjoyed some of my other like videos and whatnot, definitely give my Etsy shop a look, and just maybe like a few items or favorite the shop or whatever. I got a bunch of different designs on different things on nature, philosophy, things like that. I've got a whole line of Henry David Thoreau ones coming out. So yeah, definitely it's a good way to support the channel, besides just liking and subscribing and all that stuff. Alright, next up we have Darwin Comes to Town, and I'm afraid I'm going to butcher the last name here, but it's Menno Schilthuizen, I think, something like that. And this is all about how evolution still occurs kind of in the Anthropocene, in the man-made era, in the urban jungle, how the urban jungle drives evolution. And at first I thought, this is going to be like, just, who knows what getting into. He does like I remember in the introductory era, he's definitely like calling out, don't like use this as an excuse essentially, to basically say, wildlife isn't on the ropes and stuff, just because evolution is still happening kind of like in urban heavy populated cities and areas like that. But he definitely explains, it is occurring, like different like kinds of birds, especially, how they're actually evolving to, like, just for example, dealing with traffic, different like flight patterns, but also the wings and the tails are going longer and shorter, which allows them to maneuver around cars and stuff, when they cross the road and everything. For example, is one that's like kind of highlighted in this book. Different insects and whatnot, how they're actually evolving to kind of just like cope and deal with, basically an urban environment. I thought this was just really interesting. I grew up in a really urban environment in Florida, but like I've said in a lot of videos, I kind of live in the sticks now. But it is interesting to see just like how you can have just these megalopolis of tens of millions of people, and just kind of the different wildlife that is still kind of just clinging on, doesn't have, in some instances they don't actually have anywhere else to go because of habitat fragmentation, whatever, but they're kind of branching off and kind of going on their own evolutionary path because of it, driven by our, whether it's pollutants or just like overcrowding, like I said, habitat fragmentation, stuff like that. Very, very interesting and kind of super relevant to this day and age for sure. And then lastly, what's probably my favorite, I guess, zoology-based book so far this year is Becoming Wild: How Animal Cultures Raise Families, Create Beauty, and Achieve Peace by Carl Safina. And I was kind of torn between this one and Eye of the Albatross, which I think I read in January, if I remember correctly, by Carl Safina. I don't know. This probably depends on the day that you ask me. But anyways, he's definitely becoming one of my favorite nature writers. This book is sort of I guess, highlights 3 different species. There's 3 sections in the book dealing with kind of culture and community, family, I guess family, beauty, and, you know, dealing with conflict management, I should say, with the chimpanzees. But the overall theme is, you know, like most of these animal species and stuff kind of are individuals as part of a larger community. The 3 that are highlighted in this book are the scarlet macaws for beauty, the humpback whales for family, and chimpanzees for achieving peace. And like I said, conflict management, and kind of, you know, compare and contrasting to the ways like humans do it and whatnot. Just found it really, really fascinating. Like, since it's only 3 different species that are kind of primarily focused on, you get like a really, really, really deep dive into, like, you know, the different nuances of like what's going on. Just for example, like the humpback whales, how they, you know, a lot of people know, you know, the humpback whales and other whales like sing, but humpback whales actually have different songs each year, and it kind of just goes, each community can like distinguish different songs like from other humpback whales, and over time like it all changes and whatnot. It's just really a fascinating. Definitely highly recommend if you like any 3 of those species, but also if you're just kind of wanting a book that helps kind of, you know, as, let's say, how do I want to put this, kind of puts into place how humanity is still part of like the natural world, and not every single species is just, you know, beneath us. Like, it's just, there's just different qualities of, or I guess it's not quantity, it's just different qualities and difference. If that probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, but you know, when you think of all these other, you know, animals that are, you know, building bonds and having fun, just getting along, having social dynamics, power struggles and whatnot, it definitely puts into perspective. You know, a lot of these species really aren't that different from you and I. So I just found it really interesting, really awesome. The writing is and science is superb in there as well. And there you have it. Those are my 5 favorite books so far. See, through the month of, well, the beginning of October 2022 for Zoology. We got a few more planned out coming up in the next, obviously, like 3 months. See if a few of them can kind of squeeze their way in to the top spots. We'll find out for 2022 later on. Let me know what you thought of any of these books, if you plan on reading any of them, or if you have any zoology recommendations. Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of cool stuff. And thank you so much for watching. And whether you're reading a book on animals or not, read victoriously.